She was just a simple waitress until one photo changed everything. Emma Taylor never expected anything unusual while serving drinks at the Blackwell mansion. Working extra shifts to pay for nursing school was just her normal routine. But as she passed through a quiet hallway in the Millionaire's home, time suddenly stopped. There on the wall hung a framed photograph of a little girl with familiar brown eyes and a small scar above her right eyebrow. Emma's tray nearly slipped from her hands. Her heart pounded in her chest. The little girl in the photo was her. But how? Emma had never set foot in this mansion before tonight. She'd grown up in foster care, told her parents died when she was 5. So why was her childhood photo hanging in one of the wealthiest homes in Charleston? What Emma discovers next will expose a powerful family's darkest secret, reveal a shocking betrayal, and lead to the most emotional reunion you'll ever witness. The final twist will leave you completely speechless. Where are you watching this story from? Let me know in the comments. And if you love seeing justice finally served to those who think money puts them above the law, hit that subscribe button and notification bell right now. Emma had worked dozens of catering jobs before, but nothing like this one. The Blackwell mansion in Charleston stood like something from a movie, towering white columns, perfectly trimmed hedges, and a circular driveway that sparkled under the evening lights. As she stepped out of the catering van, Emma straightened her black uniform and took a deep breath. Just another shift, she whispered to herself, trying to calm her nerves. At 25, Emma knew hard work better than most. Raised in foster care after losing her parents at age 5, she'd been working 2 jobs since high school. Tonight's event, serving at the exclusive Blackwell Family Gala, was just another paycheck to help pay for her nursing classes. "Remember the rules," barked Mr. Collins, the stern head butler who greeted the catering staff. "No talking to guests. Eyes down. Do your job correctly and you'll leave with your pay." Emma nodded, holding her silver tray tighter as guests began arriving. The ballroom filled with powerful businessmen, politicians in expensive suits, and women dripping in diamonds. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead like frozen stars, and a string quartet played softly in the corner. 4 hours, Emma moved through the crowd offering champagne and appetizers. She tried to focus on her job, but something about the mansion felt strangely familiar, like a dream she couldn't quite remember. "More champagne on the East Terrace," another server whispered to her, pointing down a long hallway. Emma nodded and headed in that direction, carefully balancing her tray. The main party areas were brightly lit and modern, but as she ventured further into the mansion, the hallway grew dimmer, with an older, almost forgotten feeling. As Emma walked past a row of portraits, something caught her eye. She stopped and took a step back. There, in a simple black frame among paintings of stern-looking men and elegant women, hung a small photograph of a little girl. The child had dark curly hair, a flowery dress, and a bright smile showing a missing front tooth. But it was the small crescent-shaped scar above her right eyebrow that made Emma freeze. Her tray trembled in her hands. Her heart raced as she stared at the photo. It was her. There was no mistaking it. The same scar she'd had since falling off a swing as a toddler, the same dimple in her left cheek. This was a photograph of Emma as a child, around age 5, right before she'd been placed in foster care. "What is this?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. How could her childhood photo be hanging in a stranger's mansion? In a home belonging to people she'd never met? "What are you doing back here?" Emma jumped, nearly dropping her tray. Mr. Collins stood behind her, his face stern with disapproval. I was bringing champagne to the terrace," Emma stammered, her eyes darting back to the photograph. "That's the west wing. The terrace is east," he said coldly. "Return to the main area immediately. This section is private." Emma nodded and hurried away, but not before taking one last look at the photo. She had to know why it was there. For the rest of the night, Emma's mind raced with questions. Was it really her? Could it be a coincidence, a child who looked similar? No, the scar was too distinctive. The foster care system had told her nothing about her birth parents except that they died in an accident when she was 5. Could she be connected to the Blackwell family somehow? As the party began winding down, Emma made her decision. She had to see that photo again. "Martha, I think I left my phone charger in one of the hallways." Emma lied to the kind older woman who supervised the catering cleanup. "Can I go look for it real quick?" "Make it fast, honey." "The vans leave in 10 minutes, Martha replied. Heart pounding, Emma slipped back down the hallway where she'd seen the photograph. The mansion was quieter now, with most guests gone and staff focused on cleanup in the main areas. She reached the spot where the photo had been, but the wall was empty. The black frame was gone as if it had never existed. "No," Emma whispered, touching the wall where the photo had hung. I know what I saw. Looking for something? Emma spun around to find an elderly woman watching her. Unlike the other staff, she wore no uniform, just a simple blue dress. Her white hair was neatly styled, and despite her age, her eyes were sharp and clear. I thought I saw a photo here earlier, Emma said cautiously. The woman studied Emma's face for a long moment. You're her, she finally said. You have Helena's eyes. Emma's breath caught. Who's Helena? The woman glanced around nervously. Not here. Too many years. She pressed a piece of paper into Emma's hand. If you want answers, come to this address tomorrow. Alone. Before Emma could respond, the woman disappeared down the hallway, leaving Emma holding the paper with a name and address. Eleanor Davis, 1427 Magnolia Street. Emma. Vans are leaving. Martha called from the end of the hall. That night, Emma barely slept. The photo, the mysterious woman's words, the strange feeling of familiarity, it all swirled in her mind. By morning, she'd made her decision. She had to know the truth. What would you do if you found your childhood photo in a millionaire's home? Would you investigate or walk away? Drop a yes in the comments if you'd search for answers. The next day, Emma stood on the porch of a small but well-kept cottage on Magnolia Street. Wind chimes tinkled softly as she knocked on the door. The elderly woman from the mansion opened it, beckoning Emma inside. I wondered if you'd come. I'm Eleanor. I was the Blackwells' housekeeper for over 40 years. Emma sat nervously on an old floral couch, accepting the tea Eleanor offered. That photo at the mansion, why does the Blackwell family have a picture of me as a child? Eleanor settled into a chair across from Emma, her eyes sad. Because you weren't always Emma Taylor. You were born Charlotte Blackwell. The teacup shook in Emma's hands. What? You're the daughter of James Blackwell, Richard's younger brother, and his wife Helena, Eleanor continued. You lived in that mansion until you were 5. Emma's mind reeled. But I was told my parents died in an accident. They did, Eleanor nodded grimly. A car accident. But it wasn't just any accident. Some of us always suspected it wasn't an accident at all. What do you mean? Emma's voice trembled. Eleanor leaned forward. James was supposed to inherit control of Blackwell Industries. Your grandfather's will was clear. But after James and Helena died, you mysteriously disappeared and Richard took everything. Are you saying Richard had something to do with my parents' death? Emma whispered in horror. I don't have proof, Eleanor admitted. But I know that the night after the funeral, Richard ordered all your photos removed from the house. He told everyone you'd been sent to live with distant relatives overseas. The staff was forbidden to mention you again. But how did I end up in foster care with a different name? Eleanor shook her head. That I don't know. But I kept that one photo of you hidden for years. When I retired last month, I secretly hung it back up, hoping someone might recognize you someday. Emma stared at her hands, trying to process everything. So Richard Blackwell is my uncle? And he, what? Erased me and stole my inheritance. If you truly are Charlotte, Eleanor said, reaching for a small box on the shelf, there's one way to be certain. She opened it, revealing a small silver locket. This was yours. Your mother gave it to you on your 5th birthday, just weeks before the accident. It has a very specific engraving inside. Emma took the locket with trembling fingers. When she clicked it open, tears filled her eyes. Inside was an inscription. To our little star, Charlotte. Love forever, Mom and Dad. Oh my God, Emma whispered. You are Charlotte Blackwell, Eleanor confirmed. And you deserve to know the truth. Over the next week, Emma dug deeper into her past with Eleanor's help. They discovered that after her parents' accident, Richard had bribed officials to declare Charlotte Blackwell legally deceased, despite no body ever being found. Meanwhile, a child matching her description entered the foster system as Emma Taylor, with paperwork claiming her parents had died but with almost no details about her past. He erased my entire identity, Emma said in disbelief as they reviewed the documents. Eleanor nodded grimly. And took control of everything meant for you. Your father's shares in the company, the trust fund, even the summer house in Savannah. I need proof of who I really am, Emma said determinedly. Real legal proof. That led them to Joseph Martinez, a retired detective who had briefly investigated the accident before being suddenly reassigned. When they showed him Emma's locket and explained their suspicions, his face darkened. I always knew something was wrong with that case, he admitted. The brake lines were cut, but it was ruled an accident too quickly. And when I tried to locate the Blackwell's daughter, I hit nothing but walls. With Martinez's help, Emma obtained a court order for a DNA test comparing her DNA to samples from James Blackwell's stored medical records. The results were undeniable. Emma was indeed Charlotte Blackwell with a 99.9% match to James. Armed with this evidence, Emma had a choice to make. She could confront Richard directly or take everything to the authorities. But Richard was powerful, with connections throughout Charleston's police and government. "Be careful," Eleanor warned. "Richard didn't just take your inheritance, he took your entire life. Men who do that don't just apologize and make things right." Emma made her decision. She wouldn't just confront Richard, she would expose him completely. Do you think Richard was behind the accident that killed Emma's parents? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this shocking true story, please hit that like button right now. 2 weeks later, Emma returned to the Blackwell mansion. This time she wasn't wearing a server's uniform but a simple blue dress, the same color her mother wore in the only photo Emma now had of her. Mr. Collins opened the door, his eyes widening in recognition. "You're not permitted here." "I think Richard Blackwell will want to see me," Emma replied calmly, holding up the silver locket. "Tell him Charlotte is here to see him." The name hit Collins like a physical blow. He stepped back, face pale, before disappearing inside. Minutes later, a tall man with silver hair and cold eyes appeared at the door. Richard Blackwell studied Emma with a calculating gaze. "I don't know what game you're playing, but—" "No games, Uncle Richard," Emma interrupted, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "I know who I am. I know what you did. And I'm here to reclaim what's mine." Richard's confident facade cracked slightly. "You have no proof of anything." Emma smiled. "DNA doesn't lie. Neither do financial records or the accident report Detective Martinez kept copies of all these years." She watched as Richard processed her words, his mind clearly racing through scenarios and escape routes. "What do you want?" he finally asked. "Money? A position in the company? Name your price." "I want justice," Emma replied simply. "For my parents. For the life you stole from me." Richard's expression hardened. "You'll regret this. Do you really think anyone will believe you, a nobody waitress, over me?" "They already do," Emma said. "The police received all my evidence this morning. They're probably getting a warrant right now. But I wanted to see your face when you realized everything was falling apart." As if on cue, police sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder by the second. Richard lunged for his desk drawer, but Emma was ready. "Looking for this?" She held up his passport that Eleanor had helped her locate in his study during a catering event days earlier. "No running this time." The look on Richard's face, shock mixed with the dawning realization that he'd lost everything, was something Emma would never forget. Richard Blackwell's arrest made headlines across the country. Blackwell heir returns from the dead. CO arrested for fraud, conspiracy. The investigation uncovered evidence that Richard had indeed arranged the accident that killed James and Helena Blackwell. He'd then used falsified death certificates and bribed officials to declare their daughter deceased as well, while ensuring she disappeared into the foster care system with a new identity. In the aftermath, Emma, now legally reclaiming her birth name Charlotte, discovered something that brought her to tears. Her mother, Helena, had a younger sister named Margaret who had spent 20 years searching for her missing niece. "I never believed you were dead," Margaret sobbed as they embraced for the first time in the courthouse after Richard's arraignment. "I hired private investigators, followed every lead, but Richard blocked me at every turn." "He told me you were unstable and making up stories," Charlotte replied, holding her aunt tightly. "The staff was forbidden to even mention your name." The reunion with her mother's sister filled a hole in Charlotte's heart that had been empty her entire life. Finally she had family, real family who loved her. In the months that followed, as Richard awaited trial, Charlotte faced a difficult decision about Blackwell Industries. The company employed thousands of people who had nothing to do with Richard's crimes. "Your father wouldn't want the company destroyed," Margaret advised. "He built it to help people." Charlotte agreed. Rather than dismantling the company, she took her rightful place as majority shareholder but appointed experienced executives to run daily operations. Meanwhile, she established the Helena and James Blackwell Foundation, dedicated to helping foster children find permanent homes and supporting them through college. "I know what it's like to grow up without parents, without knowing who you really are," Charlotte explained at the foundation's launch. "No child should have to experience that." As for the Blackwell mansion, the home where she'd spent her first 5 years, Charlotte couldn't bring herself to live there again. Too many painful memories, too many ghosts. Instead, she converted it into a center for foster children, where they could experience luxury, beauty, and care many had never known. And the photo that started it all? It now hung prominently in Charlotte's new office at the foundation, alongside pictures of her parents and other memories she was slowly reclaiming with Margaret's help. "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't been assigned to that catering job," Charlotte remarked to Eleanor, who now worked as an advisor for her foundation. Eleanor smiled. "It wasn't an assignment. I requested you specifically through the catering company." "You did what?" Charlotte was stunned. "I knew who you were the moment I saw you working at that cafe downtown last year," Eleanor explained. "You have your mother's eyes. But I needed to be sure, and I needed you to discover the truth in a way that would protect you from Richard." Charlotte hugged the older woman tightly. "Thank you for bringing me home." Today, Charlotte Blackwell continues to manage her family's legacy while advocating for foster children nationwide. Richard remains in prison, his appeals exhausted. And that hallway in the mansion where Charlotte first saw her childhood photo? It's now a gallery showcasing artwork created by foster children, a reminder that every child deserves to be seen, remembered, and valued. What would you have done in Charlotte's position? Would you have confronted Richard differently? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this story of justice and reclaiming your identity touched your heart, please subscribe for more incredible true stories that prove the truth really is stranger than fiction. Thank you for watching. Where are you viewing this story from? Let us know in the comments below.